Welcome everyone to the Blood, Sweat, and Beers NFL podcast. My name is Eric. This is my friend Josh. We're here after a little bit of an absence. It's been about 3 weeks since we've had a recap here. But we want to talk about the first 3 weeks of football, and boy, it's been a really interesting start to the season, don't you think?
Oh, it is. I mean, a lot of surprise teams and some teams where you're like, what's going on, man? You were good last year. So, yeah, it's been awesome. Football's back and it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to be drinking some beers here while we talk to you. Cheers.
Cheers.
Josh, what's going to be first on our menu here?
Well, as you know, on this channel, our main priority is the NFC North, mainly because that's the teams we like and that's like the teams we like to talk about. So we're going to talk about the NFC North games. I'm going to start off with Chicago-Houston. Chicago pulled out a very narrow win. Justin Fields threw a dud. I mean, he was awful. I mean, 106 yards, 2 picks, 2 fumbles. I mean,
Yikes.
It was not looking good. He had a lot of fire in that. What was it, like a tsunami game with the 49ers? He pulled out a win there, had some fun, but yesterday was kind of a dud. What stood out to you in that game, Eric?
Yeah, you mentioned Justin Fields and his 2 interceptions. Davis Mills on the other side, he had 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, 20 for 32. So, kind of an average day, especially for a Houston Texans team that's kind of struggling without their long lost quarterback, Deshaun Watson. But I think this game wasn't too much about the running backs or about the quarterbacks. I think it was more so about the running backs. Dameon Pierce, the rookie, had 20 carries, 80 yards, and a touchdown. And on the other side, the one everyone's talking about, Khalil Herbert.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah, with David Montgomery's injury going on. I can't remember what quarter he went out. Was it pretty? It must have been.
It was pretty
early
early because Herbert's had 157 yards and 2 touchdowns. So if you're looking for a fantasy pickup, there's your man.
Yeah, and we'll see what the news is with David Montgomery later this week. Maybe Herbert is a guy you definitely want to pick up and just kind of hold, especially if Montgomery has that kind of injury lingering with him all season long.
That's right.
But the Bears, man, I just feel this organization doesn't really trust Justin Fields quite yet. I feel like in order to be a strong football team, they need to run the football first and foremost. And I remember in that game, it was just before halftime. I want to say they had like a minute something left, all 3 timeouts. They had the ball. And the coaching staff was just content with running the ball and running the clock out and, going to the halftime. And Bears ended up winning that game, actually, 23-20. But it really just kind of says a lot about the coaching staff, just not really trusting your quarterback in that situation. Or at least, maybe you don't trust them, but at least kind of expose them to that fire, that 2-minute drill right at the end of the quarter or at the half there. To see what he could do. I don't know what was going on with him, but should we move on to the Packers-Buccaneers? That was
sure, yeah,
kind of another nail biter there. I mean,
Battle of the Goats. What do you think of that?
Well, it started off pretty good. Aaron Rodgers and company, or I should say, I don't know, Romeo Doubs and company, or Aaron Jones and company. It's been kind of the rest of the team surrounded around Aaron Rodgers, but. They looked pretty good offensively starting the game, and then it just kind of turned into a defensive attrition. What do you think, Josh?
It really did. I mean, it's kind of fun. We talked about this in our earlier episodes where we kind of wondered how the Packers would start off the season. How long would it take for Aaron to start developing and trusting these wide receivers? And, Romeo Doubs, what do you have, like seven catches? And
7 or 8 catches, I think.
And he just really showed up when he needed to. And, Randall Cobb did his veteran thing, caught a couple balls. And, they did just enough to beat him. And, to your point, the defenses really, after halftime, really controlled the game.
Yeah, you mentioned Randall Cobb. It felt like he did so much in that game, but I read his stat line the other day. It was only like 2 catches. But it was for, 30 or 40 yards, and which means he made some pretty big plays at some pretty key times. So that was good to see an old veteran out there, Aaron Rodgers, connecting with one of his old buddies.
And Allen Lazard, of course, is you can see that that's kind of Aaron's go-to right now. Like if he needs a play, he's looking for Allen generally. So, and that's good. I mean, it's good for Alan Lazard to kind of develop that number one wide receiver mentality in this offense.
Right.
Obviously, Dobbs is going to take over that. It's clear. So, yeah.
Speaking of Alan Lazard, did you see when he caught that touchdown pass? They panned to him on the sidelines. He went right over the sidelines and he gave up the guts. He just spewed everywhere.
Oh, you're kidding?
Yeah, no, it was, I think it was like 93 or 94 degrees there, and everyone was just, I read something that the Packers, the entire week prior to the game, they turned up the heat in their workout room.
Yeah.
So they were working out in pretty strenuous conditions. So these guys, I'm sure they were just gassed in that humid, hot weather. But yeah, no, he caught that touchdown, went straight to the sideline and just.
Yeah, I'm surprised there wasn't more players cramping up in that game.
Yeah.
I was really expecting that because who was it? Greg Olson, I think, was the announcer in that game. He's like, I'm just.
Oh, they were talking about how many shirts.
How many shirts he had to change? It's like, man, I can't imagine playing it with that much amount of passion and energy in that kind of degree. So props to the players. Evans was out, the wide receiver for the Bucs, so I think that played a little bit. And
Yeah.
Tom
Still
Brady,
hurt.
what do you think of Tom Brady's like? Do you think he's all right this year? I mean, obviously he's kind of struggling with some personal stuff, and you know.
You know, it does seem to show, and I don't know if that's just the narrative that the commentators are playing, you know, and he's just without his receivers, you know, and it's easy to see why he's getting frustrated. It's because no one's there to catch the ball. Heck, Russell Gage caught 12 passes this game. He's the third string?
I would say third or fourth option in that
the
offense.
third option, and I mean, still a productive day. 12 receptions, 87 yards, and a touchdown. But yeah, it really shows. He's even Gronk too, not having that tight end there. I think Cameron Braid only had like 2 or 3 catches that game, and yeah, it's been a frustrating start to the season for Tom Brady and company, but. I don't think I'm worried about it at all. I think you know, once he starts getting his receivers back, next game especially, Leonard Fournette or Mike Evans coming back from his 1-game suspension. I'm kind of surprised that Leonard Fournette didn't have a big game. I put him in starting in my fantasy lineup, thinking that he was going to have a big game because who was it last week that they played? It wasn't the Vikings, but. I forget whoever the running back was racked up a lot of yards. The defense has been kind of bad with stopping the run this year. So I thought Leonard Fournette would have had a big game, but like we both alluded to, this definitely just turned into a defensive battle of attrition, you know.
And I think these teams will probably meet in the playoffs. I mean, they're both very strong. They're well coached, both good defenses, and then once Tom Brady gets his people back, I think you're going to see them fire away. And then once Aaron Rodgers gets more comfortable with his wide receivers, and obviously you guys have a terrific running back tandem. Again, their stats didn't jump out, your running backs, but as a team, they got about 90 yards, and really that's all you can ask for your running game. So
yeah, especially against the stout Tampa Bay.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Front line there. So.
Yep. We can move on to the one I have kind of dreaded about talking to, the Lions and Vikings. You know, there were some really good parts in this game.
For sure.
I really enjoyed watching it. The Lions look stout. They look good. Things that stood out for me was Jared Goff. Strong play, 277 yards, a touchdown. He does have a pick in this game, but it was that last kind of prayer. I mean, those things happen with quarterbacks. Jamal Williams played really well in lieu of Swift, kind of his ankle being injured and kind of just treating that gingerly as they should. What things stood out to you, Eric?
Yeah, you know, I do enjoy watching that matchup every year, twice a year, Vikings-Lions, you know, despite being Packers fans. It's nice to see those rivalry games. I just don't like watching the Bears. I have no interest in watching
I don't
either.
either.
But
no.
This one definitely was fun to watch, especially where we're living here. This was the one that was televised in the earlier slot, and then obviously I got to watch the Packers in the later slot. But It was a pretty good game. Obviously with the injuries to DeAndre Swift and Amon-Ra St. Brown went down
Right.
later in the game, and I think that's just kind of what turned the tide in that game. I
Yeah.
think maybe Minnesota just kind of took advantage of the lack of offensive production. Obviously, was it Jamal Williams had a pretty good game,
He
but
did. He gyrated a little bit too much in the end zone and got penalized 15 yards.
oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was kind of hilarious because there was a flag. I was like, oh, don't tell me that was a hold. But no, it was Jamal Williams gyrating in the end zone. So,
Yeah.
you got to have your fun every now and then.
Yeah, he does his dancing.
Yeah,
I get that.
he's a fun guy. And you remember him with the Packers. He just likes to, hype up the team. Two defensive things I'd like to talk about with the Lions is those penalties with 24 Owarie, our cornerback. He was just holding on to Thielen all game. He must have costed us at least 100 yards in penalties. So very disappointing there. He had a really strong season last year, and he just gave a lot of yards to the Vikings.
Well, there was a bright spot to that though on the other side of the ball. Who was covering Justin Jefferson?
Yeah,
was
Jeff
it Okudah? Or
Jeff Okudah,
showed up to play.
big time.
Justin Jefferson held the only 3 receptions for 14 yards. You can't ask anything better than that. That was definitely a good game for him. Looks like he's got a bright future ahead of him. There was some uncertainty there with last year and his injury and
Yeah,
what was it, an ankle or an Achilles?
I think it was
or
Achilles
something.
injury.
That's
so,
tough for a cornerback too.
right.
So
So to show up.
glad to see he's showing up there. And
Delvin Cook, strong game. I mean, for those who watched, you saw that every time he was handed the ball, he was just going full tilt and getting, I would say, 7 to 8 yards per carry. So I think that's really what brought them to. Our defensive line really didn't do much for us. It was the corners, like we just discussed, kind of stood out in good ways and bad ways. But, it was a fun game. Vikings, congratulations on the win. You guys did enough to win. So interesting division. It really is.
for sure. Yeah. So let's move on to the. You want to talk about some surprise teams for the AFC?
Yeah.
The first 3 weeks of the season, anything can happen. It's kind of a shaky part of the season. New teams are trying to figure out their identity. New coaches, new players. Just trying to figure out their identity, figure out who they are, and we definitely got some surprising teams, both in the AFC and the NFC. Josh, who are your surprising AFC teams?
AFC teams, I think we had to start off with the Dolphins, really. To see a new head coach bring in this culture of, just fire and energy, and Tua throwing the ball really well. So this guy is offensive coordinator. I believe he was with the Niners before. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he was. And he's getting the best. He's showing a lot of excitement, ways to get Tyreek Hill involved, Waddle involved, and Tua, man, that six TD touchdown game. Where did that come from?
Yeah, right.
I mean,
He was sitting on everybody's waivers.
That's what I'm
that
saying,
week in
it's-
fantasy.
a lot of people are kicking themselves.
Yeah.
There's been some bad teams too. Eric, what is one that's you're like, gosh, they should be a lot better than this?
So the one that kind of makes me smile a little bit, the Las Vegas Raiders, and I don't think it's Devontae Adams. It's obviously not Devontae Adams. However, Romeo Doubs, the Packers rookie, is outperforming him this year though so far. So I don't know how Devontae Adams feels about that. I'm sure by the end of the season he'll be way better than Romeo Doubs stat-wise, or not. Maybe
never
Dobbs
know.
does find
You
a
never
pretty
know.
solid place in the Packers offense. But yeah, the Las Vegas Raiders, it's been kind of disheartening. I can't really recall who they've played this year. They just finished playing the Cardinals. Is that right?
So I did make some notes of who they played, and they're not easy teams. They played the
Okay.
Chargers when Herbert was healthy and at his best. They had the Cards. Obviously, Murray's doing what he's doing. He's doing fine. And then the Titans. Titans always play them tough. But to go 0-3.
Yeah, I don't think they should have lost that Titans game, to be honest. I can't remember the score of that game,
It
but
was
that definitely
close.
seems like a team that should have been beaten,
Right.
especially with an aging Ryan Tannehill. And Yeah, it's just weird to see the Raiders 0-3, and we said a few weeks ago too. That's going to be a tough division to
Yeah.
work your way to the top of. 0-3, that's a pretty slow start, but a lot of season left. There still might be a way to find themselves at the top of that division, or maybe even plug themselves into a wild card spot.
I mean,
So,
heck, the Chiefs just lost to the Colts last week, so
yeah, that's
anything could really happen. I mean, it only
yeah,
takes a couple good games. You still have Derek Carr at the helm. He's a pretty good quarterback. Devontae Adams, great wide receiver. Josh Jacobs has been kind of quiet. Um, they've been talk of trading him within this offseason anyway. So Josh McDaniels, maybe he's just kind of going through that rough patch or just learning curves of being a head coach again. So
yeah,
um, Bengals. The Bengals were on my list too. They're 1-2 now. They really struggled the first couple of weeks. Not Herbert.
Burrow.
Burrow. He's been he threw a lot of picks. I think it was that first game against the Steelers.
Yeah.
So
Well, we kind of knew that probably was going to be a tough game for them.
for sure.
With Minka Fitzpatrick, and at the time T.J. Watt, he got to play a few quarters in there. But yeah, in my notes here, I wrote the Super Bowl hangover.
Yeah.
And maybe it is, and maybe it's not. But I think we saw a little bit of it this week too. The offense kind of started getting on all cylinders, but yeah, hopefully they can get it together here. And because boy, that offense with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and even Tyler Boyd
Tyler
with the
Boyd's
big
got
week
out,
this
yeah,
past week.
for sure.
It's just an awesome offense to see operate. So
Last one I want to talk about is the Jags. Good for Trevor Lawrence. He's seems to be showing that potential that he showed at Clemson and in high school. And he really had a showing yesterday. Really blew out the Chargers. Now, granted, Herbert played with whatever rib injury he has right now. Good for him for going out there and trying to play hard. But man, Trevor Lawrence, he looks like the real deal. And Doug Peterson has him playing hard ball. So
yeah. Another thing I put here, did you know that the Texans and Colts tied? I actually had no idea. I was looking up in the standings the other day, and I was like, how did the Texans only have 2 losses? And go figure, they tie. I feel like the Texans tie at least one game every single year.
And we could probably throw them in the mix of surprising. Yes, they don't have the best records, but within 3 weeks, they've been close with everyone.
Yeah.
And Lovie Smith has them playing pretty good ball Mills is doing all right. He's obviously not the probably future, I don't think, but he's been playing pretty good ball.
Yeah. And guys, in case we haven't covered any of them, let us know what your surprise teams are, both AFC or NFC. Let us know if we missed one that you think that's really standing out to you. So we'll talk about some NFC surprise teams now. Josh, what you got?
Again, I think we have to start off with the undefeated, the Eagles, and man, have they been fun to watch too.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts, I was like, well, man, he can run the ball really well, but he's balling out right now. And Darius Slay is playing out of his mind as a cornerback, and they're just playing really well. I would have never guessed that.
Yeah, I think maybe some of these young quarterbacks on their rookie deals, they just kind of hit a point where they feel like they need to come out and impress, and they've been in the offense for a while, and they really got a solid grasp of what's kind of going on and what needs to happen in order for it to be a successful and juggernaut offense. You got the Slim Reaper with Devontae Smith in his second year, A.J. Brown, the new acquisition, Dallas Goedert, tight end. Miles Sanders has even looked pretty good, the running back. And then, of course, Jalen Hurts with the added on rushing yards, too. He's having himself an MVP type season.
He really is.
And as much as I guess it's not that I hate the Eagles, but I've never really liked them. But it is fun to watch their offense this year. I'm not mad about how they're doing it all. So
I think, truthfully, if we're going to make early season predictions, I think they're going to walk away with the NFC East. I don't think it's even going to be close.
Yeah.
With Dak injured, Wentz kind of reverting back to bad habits, and I'm sure you watched the game as well, Dallas and the Giants. Daniel Jones is very athletic, but his inaccuracy is pretty
Yeah.
telling.
A
Pretty telling.
lot of the strength with the Giants team comes from the rushing game.
Yeah,
Saquon Barkley looks like his old self. He's
which is
having a
great.
really good
Yeah.
season. Um,
Oh, go ahead, Eric. I'm sorry.
so one of my surprise teams, and maybe it was one of yours too, but the Lions. Despite their 1-2 record, their offense looks really good. Even their defense looks pretty tight. With the acquisition of or the draft pick with Aiden Hutchinson. It is an exciting team to keep your eye on, and I think they're going to do some pretty great things this year. They'll probably have a lot of games where it's going to be nail biters, whether or not that's Jared Goff putting them in that position or their new head coach put into that position. Maybe not quite as experienced. Is he a new head coach?
This is year 2.
Yeah, it's his second year, so he's got some of that some experience there with them. But it'll be interesting to see what the Lions end up putting together this year.
Yeah, I mean, from what I read and what I've looked at, their schedule is pretty, there's no easy schedule, right? And every NFL game is generally pretty close, at least it should be. But they do have a pretty good schedule as far as to throw out, 8 or 9 wins possibly, but they have to overcome these mistakes and not get into those situations. They play great for one half and then they kind of coast or play, soft. So Giants, we just talked about them. They were a surprise team before last night. I mean, they were also undefeated. They were 2-0 before.
Oh, that's right. That was the other team to look up.
Last night. So
Cooper Rush, I think he's 3-0 in primetime games. So I think maybe he had one last year, but interesting quarterback to keep an eye on.
It is
for sure.
I mean, if it's not, they paid Dak a lot of money,
right?
So I don't foresee that being a controversy. But every year there seems to be a team that kind of is looking for the next whatever.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, who would you rather have, Cooper Rush or Jordan Love? That's hard to say. We won't get
no comment. I haven't seen it. 49ers is my last one. They're only 1-2, and for a team that has high, lofty expectations for the most part every year, great defense. Yes, Trey Lance is hurt. Yes, I didn't have a whole lot of expectations. I knew there'd be some bumps with him, but now he's out, right? And they have to go back to Mr. Handsome and see what happens,
Yeah.
Obviously they'll be all right and they'll probably be in the playoffs maybe as a wild card, but to see them go 1-2 to start is kind of a surprise for me. So
yeah, good for Garoppolo too, just being able to get that opportunity to walk into his coach's office and say, "Oh,
I guess you do need me."
You do need me.
Yeah,
So, good for him. I mean, he's the backup quarterback, but he found himself into a pretty good contract situation, being the highest paid backup quarterback, and he'll get to finish out the rest of the year as the quarterback for the 49ers and
probably cash out. If he plays well, he'll be in high demand in one way or another.
Yeah.
There's going to be teams that will possibly look.
Seahawks, first one that pops to my mind is
Titans, possibly.
Titans.
So,
yeah, speaking of Titans, Malik Willis, I predicted him to get in on this game this week. I can't remember the score of that game, but I predicted that Tannehill would have been benched at some point this past week. But Malik Willis, he's an interesting guy. I don't want to quite compare him to Jalen Hurts. I feel like he is Jalen Hurts, but nowhere near the accuracy of a thrower as Jalen Hurts. I feel like whenever Malik Willis is on the field, people really got to pay attention. Like, okay, we need to, maybe have a linebacker kind of spy him, or have our outside linebackers, kind of quarterback contain the pocket there, because he's this rushing threat that team. That team could definitely utilize.
Yeah, I think he's kind of I wouldn't say he's a fast bruiser. Like, I would say Jalen Hurts is kind of a bruiser runner, but he's also very shifty.
Yeah.
Where Malik Willis is kind of like when Ben Roethlisberger was kind of younger and kind of he was shifty enough and fast enough to kind of get you those hard yards.
Right.
That would be my comp to him, would probably be Big Ben, because he's a bigger guy, Malik Willis, and I think this year we will see him. I think he will start a game, at least one game this year.
Yeah. Yeah, so guys, if you like the video, if you like what you're seeing, make sure you like and subscribe, give us a thumbs up, let us know how we're doing in the comments too. We definitely love the feedback.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be active in those comments, so if you have any questions or any thoughts that you're like, oh man, why'd you guys talk about that, or no, I got to correct you for this, we're open for that stuff. That's what this
Absolutely.
podcast is about, a good time and just conversation about football.
Yeah.
So we're going to finish off with our NFC North predictions. So we got some good games coming up here. First one I have Bears and Giants. We've been talking about both on tonight's podcast here. Bears obviously struggling to kind of find that offensive mentality, and the Giants were coming off a high rush there, just lost to Dallas. Who do you have, Eric, on that one?
Yeah, this one's going to be a big running back matchup with Saquon Barkley and the Giants. I talked about how he's having a really great year. David Montgomery, if he comes back, or even Khalil Herbert, if
Heck yeah.
Montgomery has to sit out this game. I think both of these defensive lines for each team kind of struggle against the run. Some of them do have good pass rushes, and I think the Giants will definitely try to expose Justin Fields with the pass rush. I think Justin Fields this year against the blitz is 1 for 9 with 1 touchdown and like 2 interceptions or something like that. Not very good.
No.
So yeah, I think the Bears still suck. So I'm gonna go with 23-20 Giants.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's even generous. I
Yeah.
think with the Giants pass rush, they have Thibodeau back. He just played his first game yesterday, and that's exciting. And just that defense and Justin Fields' inefficiency against that blitz, you mentioned it earlier, and not reading the defense. I mean, the game's fast, right? I mean, these quarterbacks are young. They have to kind of learn the nuances of football, but I think, yeah, the Giants, I'm going 21-13. Truthfully, I think the Giants are going to win that 21-13. It'll probably be over by the third quarter, truthfully.
Yeah. Let's move on to the next one here. We'll talk about Vikings at Saints. This one, I'm predicting Justin Jefferson is going to continue to struggle. He had this bad week this past week in week 3. Not really a bad week, but just held in check. The Vikings go up against the Saints and their quarterback Marshawn Lattimore, who's having a really good year this year. He's always been an excellent.
Is he back from that suspension from? I would assume so.
I don't think he did get suspended. I think Mike Evans was the only one that got suspended, and then Lattimore just got a fine or something like that.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure the NFL only suspended one of them, or they suspended both of them, but only fined one of them. It was either one or the other.
Okay.
I can't quite remember, but the Vikings' run defense, they're going to be mediocre. So I think Kamara's going to have a big day. What do you think?
I think, yeah, because, well, first off, it's in London, so that's always kind of interesting.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So for you football watchers, make sure to tune in early. So it's going to be before that noon, to my knowledge. I think that's generally the way those London games.
Yeah, what is that, 8:15? So they have that 3-hour window, and then there's a little bit of a gap in between. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
I think Jameis Winston is kind of hurt right now too. So that doesn't really bode well for the Saints, but...
Well, he's got something with his ribs too, doesn't he?
He does.
His back or something.
I think it's his back.
Everyone in there.
I know,
their
right?
Core region.
Their rookie's been playing out of his mind, that wide receiver, Olave?
Chris Olave. Maybe he's not catching quite as many passes as we'd like to see, but out of all rookies, he's leading them all in air yards per target. So that means Jameis Winston is just chucking it up constantly.
Airing it out.
They are really trying to fit him into this offense, and I don't blame them. They spent all that draft capital trading picks with the Eagles and everything, trying to find the wide receiver that they wanted and land him in the draft. I predicted Chris Olave is going to find the end zone for the first time this season. I think it's going to be on a deep ball, and I think he's going to come down with it right in the end zone. This is a trap game for me. I think the Saints are going to win 23-20.
That's music to my ears. I love watching the Vikings lose. So I also think this is going to be another close game. So for your Vikings fans, be aware it's going to be another nail biter. My guess is it's going to be around the neighborhood of 20-21. And I also think the Saints are going to sneak it out. With Cook being out due to his wrist, I believe it was. I think that's not going to bode well for the Vikings.
Shoulder.
Is it? Oh yeah, what?
Dislocated his shoulder.
Yeah, that's
again.
Good. Right. So I think for him to be out with how well he was playing against the Lions last week, that really hurts. Yeah. Madison's good. I mean, he's a really good in spot duty.
Best backup in the league for a while there.
Yeah.
I don't know about this year. We'll see. But
no, they were even getting feelers to see, hey, can we get this guy from you? So Adam Thielen's going to have another, game where he's relied upon. And if the Vikings smart, they would do that.
Yeah.
Because they've been kind of delaying that to just trying to get it to Jefferson. So, but yeah, I have the Saints winning as well. Lions, Seahawks, this one's easy to me. I think the Lions are a good team and the Seahawks just are not really. I think this is the Lions' opportunity to really show out what they can do. They did it against the Commanders, which wasn't really a good team, but I really think this is going to be a game where the Lions are going to have some fun. I really do. I'm going 28-7, Detroit.
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to be that much of a blowout. The Seahawks are dreadful against the rush, and I think Jamal Williams is going to have a big day. But I feel like if Seahawks really wanted to, they could provide that pressure and they could blitz more than they usually do. And I think they could really find a way to get to Jared Goff, make him a little uncomfortable in those situations. I will pick the Lions to win, but I think it's going to be a little bit more of a nail biter, 31-28. I think maybe I can't remember who your kicker is. It's not Prater anymore, is it? But
Seifert.
I think.
I can't remember his name. Anyways, he wasn't very good last week.
I think maybe he'll. Oh, okay. Well, I think maybe he'll redeem himself and maybe get a game-winning field goal. I think we'll see it in that one.
A win's a win. I would take 31-30. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
It's whatever we can do to win. No, that's good. I wouldn't mind another nail biter. I don't know if I could take another nail biter after last week, but
yeah, they're always fun to watch.
They are.
That's what makes football fun.
Packers Patriots. This wouldn't have been easy before the news of Mac Jones being injured. Now it's very easy.
Yeah.
It's very easy with Aaron getting this development with his wide receivers and the Patriots looking kind of dreadful. It's easy to
say. No, and I think you're right. Even if Mac Jones was playing, I do feel like this is a game where the Packers can try to experiment a little bit more on offense. And, I think we see it in every game, really. The Packers try to kind of explore new opportunities for these young receivers to get involved in the game. And I think this is a perfect opportunity. I think Romeo Doubs continues to make the most out of his opportunities. For him, I predicted 8 receptions, 75 yards, and a touchdown, similar to what he did last week. I also got a rushing opportunity for him. I think they can use him in those end around or jet sweeps or something similar to that. But Allen Lazard, I think he reminds the NFL that he's Aaron Rodgers' #1 target. I think he has a big game this week. I think Rodgers is going to try to make a statement, and so is Allen Lazard. 10 receptions for 135 yards, 2 touchdowns. Maybe that's a little ambitious, but I think it's definitely within Allen Lazard's wheelhouse to be able to pull off something like that.
Yeah, I kind of mentioned in the Lions game, I think this is going to be a game where you're probably going to see Aaron Rodgers smile on the sideline. You're going to see some, big plays. You're going to see some high fives and things like that. This is going to be a pretty fun game to watch for if you're a Packers fan, just to see that offense click and develop.
Right. Who's the backup quarterback there? Do you know?
It's not Stidham anymore because I think Stidham went to the Raiders.
You think so?
He did.
Because there's this guy in preseason, and I don't know if he was the 3rd or the 4th string, but Bailey Zapp.
Zap.
Yeah, you remember that name? I don't know if he's going to be the backup for this game or not. Maybe you guys can let us know. I'll look it up after this game. But either way, not a relevant factor, and I don't know. Maybe it will be. I have the final score being 24-17. I think maybe late in the game, the New England Patriots will have some kind of garbage time
Just kind of
touchdown.
empty calorie
Yeah,
yards and
yeah.
points. And maybe they'll bring back Cam for a game. Who knows?
So, yeah,
You know what I
think
mean?
about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's gonna be way worse than that. This could be a 28-3. I'm not even kidding. It could be.
Yeah, well, that'd certainly be nice to see the defense pull that off. That would look good, I think. And I had mentioned it at the beginning of this year too, that the Packers defense was going to be underrated and overlooked. And yeah, 3 points would make me happy for the defense to be able to hold them too.
It wouldn't be a surprise. Comment down below. What games are you most excited to see? Out of those four, which one are you most excited to watch and kind of see? And who you're rooting for in those games. Feel free to comment below and give us a like and subscribe if you're liking our videos so far. We'll be doing more, obviously more podcasts as this year goes by. I think we're really enjoying it. So I think we'll end from there.
Yeah.
Next time we'll see you, will be more football to talk about, more football to watch. So thanks for watching, guys. And any last words, Eric?
No, that sounds good. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks. Cheers.